Hi everybody, welcome to today's webinar, the benefits of leveraging mobility for NetSuite inventory, and we'll touch on traceability within NetSuite. My name is Jo Burnett. I am the marketing coordinator for RF Smart in APAC. I'm just going to give us a minute to let the stragglers join, but in the meantime, I thought that I could run through our housekeeping and answer any questions there. First and foremostly, that there is a little chat box, and if you have any questions on your screen, just type them in there and we'll endeavour to answer them at the end of this presentation. Even if it's a NetSuite or if it's a warehouse or if it's a supply chain question that you might have, please pop it in there and we'll do our best to respond today. Otherwise, we'll be answering via email. The webinar is an hour in duration, and we hope to finish on time. And just to make sure that my system is up and running, I'm going to launch a poll. And if you wouldn't mind just answering the question, it is, where are you working from today? From my home office or my business premises? If you can just pop in your answer there, then I'll be able to give you the response. There we go. I'm going to close the poll, and it looks like 100% of us are working from our home office. Righto. The other thing that I can let you know about today is that there is an agenda, and Stephen will be running through all of these items today.
Well, thanks for the intro, Jo. I might just start talking because I know what's on the agenda. So it's what we're going to do today is we're going to go through a little bit of information about RF Smart, and then I'm going to provide a demonstration, a live interactive demonstration with NetSuite using RF Smart. And then after I do that, Robert is beautiful. Thank you, Jo. Robert is going to step through some of the benefits of traceability using a barcode solution within NetSuite. So you can see I've got a few things listed on here. Not all of those items. We're going to demonstrate all those items today because we don't have time, but I will certainly step through a number of different areas. And we're mostly focused on lot or batch tracked items today, and therefore the applicability of using NetSuite's traceability and their traceability bundle, which is what Robert's going to be showing. Did I miss anything, Robert? No? Okay, excellent.
No,
next slide, please, Jo. So rather than talking about who we are, the first thing I want to talk about is why you would implement this type of solution. So as you can see here, we've identified some metrics that our customers would typically get as benefits. You can see there that they're kind of broadly broken into 4 areas. But what it comes down to is accuracy, visibility, and productivity. And one of the things that's often not identified by these types of exercises is also that it can have a strong impact on customer service. So if you consider in the modern sort of environment that if you commit to providing something to a customer and then you find you can't fulfill that order, that might be the last order that customer makes with you. And I'm sure that some people that are either on this call or listening to it later also work with some of the suppliers in Australia who let's say, are somewhat unforgiving when it comes to how you fulfill your orders and the timing with which you must fulfill your orders. So customer service and the ability to accurately know what you have and therefore what you can send and fulfill, as well as the accuracy of the picking, will enable you to dramatically increase your default ratio. And that's one of the big things that we think a solution like RF Smart provides to our customers, along with all these other sort of more obvious benefits. Next slide, please, Jo. And just who we are, a little bit about RF Smart. So as it says there, been around since 82, got over 1,600 customers. We actually now have over 1,800 customers and over 1,300 customers running NetSuite. So we're growing rapidly as an organization. We do have global offices. So basically we cover EMEA out of the UK, We cover APAC out of Australia, and we cover the US and the North American continent out of Jacksonville and also out of Denver. The Australian office itself is worth mentioning that is now, I think, when I first joined, Robert, the Australian office was me when we first started working together. So now the Australian office is myself, net new sales representative, an existing customer success account executive, an implementation consultant who's based out of Sydney, and then 2 help desk resources, and of course, the wonderful Joe who was on this call. So we've gone from 1 to 7 as we've continued to grow, and we do have over 140 customers in Australia or in APAC, and over 100 of those are running the RF Smart for NetSuite product. Next slide, please, Joe. And so you can see here a really important point. So Built for NetSuite is a badge that's around and that a lot of people use, but the badge that really matters is the Built for NetSuite native Suite App badge. Because if you're a native Suite App, that means everything you do resides on NetSuite. And that means NetSuite is the single source of truth. And for a lot of people, the reason why they purchase a solution like NetSuite, as you can see there, Joe's just going to the next slide where it highlights it. But yeah, the reason why you purchase NetSuite is because you want everything to be on that platform. You want a single source of truth. You want a central platform. If you've got an integrated or a hybrid Suite App, then there are certainly elements of the solution that live outside of NetSuite. And if that's the case, then you are certainly in a situation where that platform's reliability can cause you problems. You may end up with a situation where that external application, let's say for example, has an inventory balance that doesn't match the inventory balance you have in NetSuite, and then there's all sorts of issues that can go along with that sort of situation. So that's why you want a native Suite App, and you want it to be built inside the NetSuite platform to make sure that you're in a position to have everything updated in real time at the same time. Next slide, please, Joe. So just to talk a little bit about our cloud experience and also about how long we've been working with NetSuite. So there's a couple of points on this slide that I think are important. So the first one there is is you can see that the solution has been around since 2013, and the solution is specifically developed for NetSuite. So, this is not a solution we can deploy across to, I don't know, say Sage or something like that. It's a solution that's been written, developed, and maintained specifically for NetSuite. The other important point to make here is that although we do have optional add-on modules, etc., it's also important to identify that a lot of this functionality that we add is available to our existing customers at no extra charge. So the KPI dashboards used to be an item that we would charge for, and we made a corporate decision recently to include that in the standard bundle, for example. Next slide, please, Joe. So this is just an example of some of our customers. I just wanted to show like a quick customer example list, and these are all APAC customers, and hopefully you can see from here that there are a lot of different size customers here, right? So we're not talking about a consistent size customer that can benefit from a solution like RF Smart. It might start off on the low end with quite a small customer, someone like your excuse me, someone like your APS or Australian Bush Flowers, for example, and then moves all the way up to larger customers like Cocoa Republic, who is a larger publicly traded company. And then you've got other large companies that we work with that provide, large numbers of users and a broad range of functionality. So the main point here is that RF Smart can grow with your business. Next slide, please, Joe. And yeah, there we go. So I've just identified scalability, right? So an example of a pre-revenue customer that we recently implemented is a company that's manufacturing artificial meat, and then we go all the way through to large scale companies like, yep, that's okay, Joe, if you want to go to the next one. So large scale companies like Rhino-Rack that are talking about benefits there of reducing their receiving time dramatically. Vertex, they're increasing their on-time picks, and PSP, Vertex and PSP are in New Zealand. Rhino-Rack is based in Australia. PSP dropping out a lot of the printing that they were previously doing for their customers. They're now only printing things that are required externally by their customers. They no longer have to print a whole bunch of documents that are just going to be used internally. Next slide, please. So yeah, just to sort of reiterate a few things there. So why RF Smart? It's out of the box solution. It's developed and deployed specifically for NetSuite. So we have some customers who find that they can do a partial go live and get the solution implemented and running for a specific function, within weeks. So it is an out-of-the-box solution. We have a lot of experience in supply chain. The implementation consultant I mentioned earlier, I did my first scanning and data collection project with that person. We were both working for different companies, but yeah, 21 years ago. And then if you look at customer satisfaction, is obviously a very important metric for us. We have 24/7/365 support available. It's follow the sun, so it's US, Australia, and then Europe, and just kind of rotates around. And a lot of experience and a lot of reviews on the Suite App store. So I'd also recommend anybody looking at a Suite App, go check out suiteapp.com and see how the solution is reviewed. Next slide. Beautiful. So now it's time for a poll, Joe, please.
There we go. The poll today is, have you implemented NetSuite? Yes, we are live. No, we're still implementing. Or no, we are investigating.
Awesome. Thanks, Joe.
Great. The result is...
We'll just leave that one open, get some results. Go ahead, sorry.
50% say we are still implementing and 50% say we are still investigating.
Okay, excellent. So you're at the right time, basically, to be looking at these types of solutions and to be having these kinds of discussions, because it means when you do make an implementation decision, if you implement both solutions at the same time, you're not going to have to revisit processes, revisit configuration and setup. So hopefully you're either at the early stage of your implementation or you're in the investigation phase. So Joe, if you wanted to pass control to me, and then I will share my screen.
Great, thank you very much, Stephen. You have control.
Oh. My pleasure. Just give me one moment and I will share my screen. This takes a couple of seconds to get this done, but the transactions that I'm gonna walk through today, just for everyone's information, are going to be a bit of a day in the life of inventory. So I'm going to start off receiving, I'm going to put it away, I'm going to do an inquiry, I'm going to do a pick, and I'm also going to do a count, and I'm going to do all that pretty quickly. More than happy to discuss with anyone afterwards when we mark things for follow-up, to get into some details, and hopefully we'll also have time for some questions. But yeah, I'll be moving pretty quickly through the demonstration. So hopefully you can see my screen now. So there should be an RF Smart screen on the right-hand side on a device, and then a NetSuite screen on the left.
I can confirm that I can see your screen.
Thank you, Joe. Okay, so just quickly before I get started, you can see on the right-hand side here, sorry, the list of transactions in my current menu, but just know that these menus are configurable by role. So for example, I could have a very simple menu like this one that you can see here, or even simpler, or if somebody is a more advanced user or an administrator of some sort, then you may want to give them like a much larger view of the available transactions. So I'm going to start off on the purchase order receiving side, and as I say, move through a bit of a day in the life of a piece of inventory. Typically on this screen, our customers would either enter the purchase order number from the supplier's paperwork, or they may hit the load purchase orders button and go out there and see the open purchase orders at their current location. You can see that I'm working in the Auckland location. I should also mention the device I'm using today is a ruggedized warehouse device with an integrated scanner. Hopefully you'll hear the beep when I scan a barcode, and I am actually going to scan a barcode of the purchase order that I'm going to receive. So there we go. What we get now is a list of all the products on that purchase order. They're all red, indicating that none of them have been receipted. Most of these are batch controlled items, as per what we mentioned earlier, our focus today. But you can see down the end there, that packaging item is actually configured as a standard component. If I scan the barcode for that, it's going to bring up the information about the product. It's going to talk about what it is. It's going to show me how many remaining on the purchase order. And at this point, I can indicate that I have 10 of that product, for example. And what you'll see is that item will turn yellow, indicating that it has been partially receipted. If I go through now, let's take a look at some of these bulk items. So if I scan a barcode, for example, for the bulk blueberries, what you'll notice with that one is because that product is lot controlled, it asks me for a lot number. You can see there also that VN9201 is a vendor product number that's configured in the system. It's also worth mentioning at this point 2 things. Number one, if you want to reuse a supplier barcode, you can. So you absolutely can use a supplier barcode, scan a supplier barcode, and have the ability to use that throughout your process instead of having to relabel the product. We can also work with various barcode standards so that the item and the lot can be scanned in a single scan as well as being in a multiple scan situation. Gonna have to bear with me. This may be a little slow because I've noticed that my internet off my phone is flagging a little bit, but yeah, hopefully everything still comes through. And then I'm just going to put the quantity in there. So now what you'll see is I've got an untouched item, which is red, a partially receipted item, which is yellow, and a fully receipted item, which is green. And that is always the order in which those things will be shown on the screen with RF Smart. And that's important because not so important when there's only 3 items on the order, extremely important when there's 50 items on the order. You don't want to be scrolling looking for the product you're trying to receive. So just that carton of raspberries is the other one I'm going to do, and I'll receive the full quantity of that. It's also worth noting that if this product came in without a barcode, I could also configure the system to auto-generate a lot number based on, say, a date and a sequence. And then what it would ask me for, if the product was set to require it, it would actually request an expiry date, and then I could print labels for that as part of the receiving process. That's worth noting if you don't want to reuse a supplier barcode, for example. We can also do a similar thing as part of any manufacturing process that you have, be it an assembly build or a work order with work in process. We can automatically generate the lot number and print the labels as part of that manufacturing process. We won't have time to go through manufacturing today, but I did want to just mention that. What I'm going to do now is receive this PO, and then I'm going to change the NetSuite view so that you can see what happens to that purchase order in NetSuite. So let me just go ahead and hit receive. So now you can see I've got a little green tick indicating the PO has been received. If I go across here to NetSuite and I refresh my screen, then we'll see this change from pending receipt to pending bill. And that's because this is now waiting for an accounting 3-way cross match before, you know, that's approved for payment by your accounts payable people. So now that that purchase order has been received, NetSuite creates what they call an item receipt record. This is a transaction record indicating that products have been received. And I'm showing you that really for one major thing, and that's every transaction that you do with RF Smart creates an RF Smart transaction record in NetSuite. This transaction record tells me that Stephen C. Lewis, which is me, received these items using purchase order receiving, and it took 182 seconds. So hopefully from that, it's obvious that we can then generate this reporting type KPI information that I have on the screen here. So NetSuite has the ability, you'll see that PO receipts just jumped. It's actually saying yesterday because this system is on a US time zone. But this being a centralized demonstration system, just want to confirm before Robert thinks I'm giving you the impression that NetSuite always operates in US time zone. That is not correct, but being a US company, our system's set up to operate in that time zone. You can see we've got a list of running users, we've got KPIs, we've got graphing, and then under RF Smart reporting, you'll see we've got all these categories where we can go and take a look at activity. So we provide these, I would say, primarily as an example of the sort of KPIs you can generate. NetSuite has excellent save, search, and dashboarding capabilities, which would enable you to get exactly the KPIs you need. But we provide this bundle as a way of sort of identifying some typical examples. So now that I've received the product, the next step I'm going to take in RF Smart is to go and put it away. If I jump in bin put away, I hit load items, it's going to show me a list of all the items sitting in the receiving area ready to be put away. So if you could imagine, I just unloaded the truck, I physically took everything and put it on the ground, and now I'm going to pick it up and I'm going to put it away in the warehouse. So if I do the bulk carton of blueberries, and then it's going to ask me to identify the lot number just as it did before. The other thing it's going to do is it's also going to show me the additional information here is it's showing me the bins in the system, bin locations in the system that are configured for this product. So E25, the one with the asterisk, is the default pick bin. So I can put it away there, and then FO1 is a bulk storage area, and then staging is actually a manufacturing staging bin. So that's used as part of our manufacturing suite, be that, as I say, an assembly build or a work order completion. You can actually stage things. That's really important for any sort of batch controlled manufacturing, because you want to know exactly which batch got used as the input into that work order. So we do provide that capability. So I'm just going to move the whole quantity to the pick bin, which is E25, just by scanning it. The secondary way I could have done that is I could have actually scanned a completely different bin. So that list is a suggestion. It's not enforced. So I don't have to put it there, but I can put it there. And I'm just going to put away the raspberries as well. And then I'm going to scan my lot number to verify it. And I'm going to provide my quantity. And I'm going to put that away into a bin by scanning the bin. And that process is now complete. And so you can just go through and put away all the items that have been receipted as part of this order. I'm going to sort of go away from that in the interest of time and continue on. I want to make sure Robert has enough time to talk about the really important stuff around traceability. So the next piece, just really quickly, I want to show you what our inquiry looks like, or our item lookup. So there's a few different use cases for this. So the first one might be I'm looking at a product, but I want to know where some more of it is. So I might scan that product if it's in front of me, but it doesn't quite show enough there, and I can hit this inventory and quantity button. What that's going to do is show me how much of this product I have in all the different locations I have access to in the system. And if I select a particular location, it'll show me the balance in the different bins in that location. So for those of you that aren't familiar with NetSuite, a location is typically a physical place, although you can divide them into multiple locations if you wish. And then within all of those, there tend to be bins. And the bins tend to indicate like a bin location within the warehouse, some sort of slot or an area within the warehouse. And then because these are lot control products, I can actually drill in by tapping the bin on the screen, and it's going to show me, hey, that's the lot number that's in there. That's the available and on-hand balance that's in that bin location. The other use for this is look, I know I've got an item and I know its item code starts with FSL1, but I don't have a barcode to scan. So I just type FSL1 and I go, oh, actually, it's the bulk raspberries that I'm looking at. Okay, and I want to print some labels for that. So you could use this inquiry to look up a partial item number and print a label, for example. If you wanted to update like a single supplier barcode for this product, we usually recommend importing supplier barcodes using NetSuite CSV import. But if you wanted to, you could certainly come in here and do a barcode update for an individual product. So we've received it, we've put it away, we've inquired on it. The next step is to pick it. And I'm going to show single sales order picking today, but just know that there are lots of options here with RS Smart. So out of the box with our standard advanced distribution bundle, we have the ability to pick a single order at a time. We have the ability to pick multiple orders at a time and keep those separate by using a sales order barcode, some sort of printed pick list with a sales order barcode, or we can do bulk picking where you're going to pick multiple orders at once and not keep them separate, and then perhaps take them across to a packing station and divide them up for distribution. So there's a few different picking options. You'll also notice here there's the ability to assign a picker. So I can say, look, show me all the orders assigned to me. And you can create a pretty simple, if you look over here in NetSuite on the left, you can create a pretty simple dashboard that enables you to come in here and assign orders to people. You know, I want Eric to pick that order. I want Katie to pick that one, for example. And you can operate in a couple of modes. So you can hand out pick slips and scan them. That's absolutely fine. You can assign orders to a person and then show a list and let them select from that list. You can also change the list. So you could say, for example, to some of your, I guess, more advanced pickers, hey, pick the stuff assigned to you. When you run out of that, go into unassigned and then just start picking the orders that are unassigned. So you certainly don't have to hand out paperwork if that's not what you want to do. I'm going to go ahead and scan a sales order. So that's pulled the sales order details from NetSuite. It has recommended a bin to pick that product from based on the picking logic. So with most of the time, if you've got lock control and expiry, then the picking logic is going to be FIFO, so first expiry, first out. We can operate in a pick only from the pick face mode, and we can also operate in what we call is best bin, which means pick from the pick face if there's enough there. If there isn't enough there, then pick from the bin that does have enough, or split the pick across multiple bins. These suggested bins will be sorted into bin sequence. Mine are sorted alphabetically because that's the way I've got the system set up, but it's also worth noting that RS Smart can sort by a sequence. Now that might be important if you have aisles that are numbered from front to back, but you don't want to pick from front to back. You want to go in a horseshoe shape. You want to go down the left-hand side and come back up the right-hand side. Then you would use the pick sequence number to change the order that these would be presented in. And we've got that whole red, yellow, green concept again. Once again, not sort of as important in this case because I'm picking only 2 items. But if you were in a situation where a sales order contained 10 things, you would always want the next thing they were going to be doing to be first, and you would not want them to have to scroll through a list to figure out what it was that they were doing. For this second product here, I'm going to scan a different barcode. You may notice it's now saying 2 boxes of 5, and that's because I scanned the box of 5 barcode for this item. This is an RS Smart feature that we add to NetSuite. If I go back and I scan the standard barcode for that product, it's going to tell me to pick 10 eaches. So we have the ability to sort of flick that around depending on the barcode that gets scanned. Really useful if you have products with different GTINs or different barcodes indicating a different unit of measure, like an each, a box of 5, an inner and outer, a pallet level quantity, etc. Now what I'm going to do is submit this and go ahead and complete the pick. As I mentioned earlier, if you wanted to pack items into individual boxes for integration with shipping, you can certainly use our pack station to do that. This order is now fulfilled. Just before I run out of time, I'm going to briefly talk about our counting, and then I'm going to hand things over to Robert. So in terms of sort of process, we've received it, we've put it away, we've inquired on it, and we've picked it. We can also pack it. And if you need a transaction to actually mark the fulfillment as shipped, we do have one of those as an optional add-on. Most people, though, would use an automated process within NetSuite once the order is packed to mark it as shipped and generate the invoices on a schedule and email them to the customer, or that kind of thing is certainly possible. But just wanted to briefly mention that. So in terms of creating a stock count, typically what people would do is they would designate the location they're going to count in. They indicate the account they want any bin adjustments to go to. And I'm going to use the humorously named Ask My Accountant account. And then I can also provide a name for the count. We typically name the count after the person that will be doing the count. I'm yet to encounter a situation where warehouse people are arguing with each other over who's going to do the stock count. Like, I want to do the stock count. So it's not something I've had. So normally naming it after the person that's going to do it is fine. I've put an item filter in there. Just want to briefly talk about a couple of other features here. So you'll see there's a next count date on that product. And so what you can do is you can specify a start and an end date, and then it'll only show you items that are due to be counted within that date range. You can also specify groups of items or indeed groups of bins within the warehouse. So to give you some examples of what you might use this for, you could create a stock count for everything in aisle A that's due to be counted this week, for example. And this is another new feature we just recently introduced, is you can schedule these. So you can create a schedule that says, hey, on Monday, I want to automatically create a stock count for everything in aisle A due to be counted this week. On Tuesday, I want to automatically create a stock take for everything in aisle B that's due to be counted this week. So you can do true roll through cycle counting and hopefully avoid the need to do a full physical stock take. We do also create count records every single time anybody counts anything, so that those pesky auditors can be shown a list of exactly what was done to maintain stock count integrity. I'm actually going to pull up a count that I created earlier. Now, if I go into stock count directed, which is the one I'm going to use today, and that's what you would use typically for a cyclical count. We also have standard stock count where you can, you're not told what to count, you decide what you're going to count. And then we also have the ability to create a count on the fly from the device. Just to be clear though, no updates to NetSuite inventory happen until it's approved. Until it's approved within this interface, this RS Smart interface in NetSuite by some sort of inventory administrator. So if I hit load stock counts, what you'll probably notice is that this count's not there. That's because it's not started. So as soon as I start this count, it will be available to me. Just while I do that, I'm just going to also show you another little feature. So next to stock count directed, you can see there's a number there. That number indicates how many new counts there are in the system. Really useful for things like replenishments. Start to count up on the operator screen saying, hey, there's all these open counts or there's all these open replenishments, right? And you'll notice there's 4 counts, but only a number 1. And that's because this count here that I've created earlier is the only one that's considered new, and you can define what you want that to be in your implementation. So it might be counts created in the last week, it might be counts created in the last month. We now have a very familiar looking red screen because none of these things have been processed. The only big difference here is this little circle with a cross through it button, which I'm just going to hit now for that last item. And that is the I can't find it button, right? So that's the button you hit when that product is not physically where it says it is. So I'm just going to hit that. And what it's going to do is it's going to update NetSuite with a quantity of 0 and a variance of -90. Now, I could come along and put items into that bin right now and it would not matter. because the only thing we're going to do on the approval is update based on the variance. So what this means is that I can count, pick, put away, I can do all these things at the same time. Because, and the other thing I'll note, if you notice here, see this on hand here is 41 for these berries. I'm going to go and count that. It would be useful if I remembered exactly how many I receipted, but I can't. So I'm going to put 56. Hopefully it was 15 that I received. I think it might have been more than that, but anyway, let's just do that. Because what I want to do is show you what happens now. So if I refresh this NetSuite screen, what you'll see is the quantity counted will be updated, but also because the on-hand has changed since the count was started, the on-hand also gets updated. Okay, so it's 86. Okay, so I need to put another 30 in. So the cool thing with that is it's real time. It's in real time. It's taking a snapshot in real time and calculating the variance in real time. So you'll never be in a situation, just going to count another 30 here. So that I don't have a variance, but yeah, and you can also do multiple counts. So if you've got a bin location with a really large quantity in it and you want to like enter quantity multiple times, you can, or you can set it so if you enter a new quantity, it actually overrides. So just in the interest of keeping things running on time, I believe I'm pretty close, but yeah, I'm probably going to stop there. Actually, what I'll do, just let me hit complete count here, and I'll just show you what the audit options look like. I'm not going to go through all the audit in detail, but essentially with the audit, what you have is the ability to do a few different things. So you can approve individual lines, and that's the reason why RF Smart created this stock count application. Because the standard NetSuite counting is approving page by page. What we wanted to do is give our customers the ability to approve by individual line number. So you can see here, I've got these buttons. I've got approve. I've got approve by adjustment amount. I can reopen the count. I could say, look, how can you have lost 90 of those? I want to create a recount just from that selected item. And then that gets shifted across the recounted column here, and you tabs here, sorry. So you can see we're tracking all the activity. And also, if I go across to here and I hit view counters on here, because I counted this item twice with 2 different quantities, you're going to see my name in here twice with 2 different quantities, same date and time. So that's those counter records that I was talking about earlier. So hopefully you can see it. There's a lot of flexibility in how you create the count, a lot of flexibility in how you execute the count, and then a lot of flexibility in how you perform the audits. I'm going to hand back the control back to Joe, who I believe will pass it across to Robert. And do we now have another poll, Joe, or is that? I don't know. That might be after Robert. Okay, so I'll pass control. I'll stop sharing and pass control.
Okay. Robert, it's
Yes.
your segment on traceability for NetSuite inventory.
Can you share that PowerPoint, Joe?
Sure. I'm just going to take control again. There we go.
Perfect. Thank you. Thanks, Steve, for walking us through the RF Smart solution. As you mentioned, it's fully native on NetSuite, built on the platform. Everything's in real time. So therefore, from a connectability perspective, it's all there on that platform, built on NetSuite. So a little bit about OneKloudX. RF Smart, Stephen and I have worked for a few years now together. And OneKloudX was born a few years ago now. I've been involved in ERP for the last 20 odd years, both locally, internationally, managed projects on both the customer side, on the vendor side. So I've seen some good implementations and I've seen some bad implementations. And as a result of that, started this company to incorporate and build our own methodology around using the Agile implementation method. So we've got over 100 implementations under our belt. I think the total team, we're now 16, 17, and continually growing with a combined 120 years of experience, specifically in the NetSuite product. And as a result, we utilize this Agile methodology to implement the solution, which is our own FlexSafe implementation methodology that we use for both NetSuite and Salesforce, as well as an OneKloud HR solution provider in Australia as well. So next slide, please, if I could. So today, oh yes, sorry, go for it.
Okay. Hi, everyone. Because Robert's segment focuses on traceability, I just wanted to gauge how much of an issue this is for you. And so the poll that I'm going to be launching is, have you wanted better traceability of inventory in your warehouse? So launch that now. And we've got the votes in. That says 67% of you say yes, and 33% of you say no, it's not an issue.
So NetSuite's Traceability solution is a suite app. It's managed by NetSuite, and it's a downloadable app that is part of the actual solution. What it does is it basically tracks any single in and out of an actual batch or of a serial number, whether it's a purchase order receipt, whether it's a transfer, whether it's utilizing it as a component in the manufacturing process, whether it's selling it on the sales order and filling it and sending it out to a customer, whatever transaction that is, whether it's both internal or external to the organization, NetSuite captures that information on within the system, and therefore provides this ability to trace the actual batch and serial number. So if you're in the food and bev industry and you need to do a recall because there's a particular set of blueberries that you need to recall, as a result, obviously you'll have the item number and you'll have the batch number and the lot number with the expiry, and then you'll be able to see throughout the whole evolution from manufacturing or from packing or from shipping. You'll see the whole aspect of that product and the life cycle from start to end, and therefore be able to process any returns or any other elements that you need to do in relation to managing the lot traceability aspect of it. So next slide, please. So within this suite app solution called the lot and serial number trace, there's two types of traces you could do. The first trace is a forward trace, and the forward trace capability is from a component level in the bill of materials. That is a lot number, raw material, inventory item, and you're looking at it from a top level assembly item, right? So as a result, you're sourcing elements around the procurement, around consumption, any delivery transactions, and then when you execute the actual forward trace within NetSuite's suite app, there's 4 subtabs that come up as part of it. There's the inbound, which actually incorporates any purchase orders or transfer orders that are resulting as for any of those movements that have happened when you're receiving products into your warehouse, any transactions throughout the build process, where that batch number is being utilized as a component. Outbound, when you're actually sending products out the door through a sales order, through a transfer order, or any other transactions that you've actually got as well. Any internal transactions like an inventory adjustment, account, a bin put away, or a bin transfer as an example. So that's the forward trace. And then the second element, which is on the next slide, is the backwards trace. And the backwards trace is from the actual top level of the assembly. That's the finished product, and therefore looks at it from a top down. So it sources and shows you all the manufacturing aspects and the delivery transactions pertaining to that trace. So same again, there's those 4 different subtabs: an inbound, a build, an outbound, and other transactions. But you're just looking at it from a manufacturing standpoint compared to the other, which is more of a from a component standpoint. So they're the 2 types of traces in NetSuite. So if I'm able to possibly share, is there a poll after this or otherwise?
Would you like to share your screen? That
would be great, and I'll take the audience through NetSuite's traceability app. Can you see my NetSuite screen? All good?
Can see your NetSuite screen.
Perfect. All right, so I've just logged into our demo environment. I'm logged in as the administrator. For those who haven't seen the NetSuite solution before, top right-hand corner is all the roles that are pertaining to your organization that you have access to under your email address. and those roles have different bits of information, different levels of access, and different levels of what you can do in the actual solution. So I'm just logged in the actual administrator. Up here, you've got your global search, you've got your individual portlets, which is different bits of information, whether they're reminders, whether they're KPIs, whatever they are, they're for what you've got access to, they're displayed on the screen. So from a traceability standpoint, like I said, it is an actual suite app, which is downloaded from the suite bundler. And then once you've installed it, you just go through the standard help documentation of NetSuite. It's quite easy. There's an 11-minute video that shows you how to set it up. It's quite easy, quite simple. And once you've actually set it up, what happens is you go to the reports and then drop down to the actual bottom of the reports area. You will see a little area called lot and serial trace. So there's three aspects to the actual solution. The first one is to actually manage your preferences. So for instance, what are your defaults that you want to have in the actual screen? So the defaults in this example are we're using a forward trace. We want to include all those 4 individual subtabs. You have the ability to export elements from the actual trace as well. So export it into a spreadsheet and therefore have it emailed to you or emailed to a set of respondents. And as part of that as well, you can include different date ranges, because obviously you can have a trace based on a date range. And then as part of that, how many rows and how many defaults aspects do you want to have on the actual trace. So once you've set up your preferences post installing the suite app, this is where you'll therefore go in and run your lot trace. And if you're a business that manages serial numbers instead, you have the option to do your serial numbers as well. So from a lot trace standpoint, it incorporates, like I said, all those defaults from the preferences page. And then you define basically how you want to trace, whether it's a backward trace or a forward trace. Choose the actual subsidiary that you want to execute the trace for. So we want to do it for Australia. You can define the individual location as well. So for instance, whether you want to run it for Auckland or any other. And then you include your individual tabs you want to search for. So we're searching for all those individual sub-tabs, include the item, the lot number, and the start and end date. So I've just executed this in the background. It takes 30 seconds or so to run, because it's actually going through the whole NetSuite database and trying to find all those individual transactions that relate to that individual batch number and that individual for that particular item. So that particular item is for bulk blueberries for 10 kilo cartons based on the Australian subsidiary. We're executing it for every single location to see where it's moved based on these particular start dates. And then you'll also be able to see the expiry date on it as well. In addition, you get quantity information as well. So for instance, what quantity on hand you've got in the base unit, what your outbound total has been in terms of what you've sent out the door, and what you've got in terms of on hand as well. So as I progress down the actual page, you'll see that for this particular item and lot number, on the inbound side of things, there was a transfer order, and I can see the individual item number. I can jump into the individual lot number as well, or also look at the individual transfer order as well. So if I just click on the transfer order, it'd be able to show the actual transfer order information from NetSuite. And therefore, I'd be able to see from the inventory details of that transfer order as to what's been shipped for that product, being that individual batch, which is contained in this inventory detail aspect of NetSuite. And there you can see the individual batch number. Right, so it has the drill down capabilities to then go to every individual transaction for every individual one of those sub-tabs. So if I jump through and go to the next sub-tab, from the inbound, I can therefore look at the build. In this case, it hasn't been part of any component or any part of any assembly or work order. From an outbound perspective, I can see that it's been part of 2 outbounds. Funnily enough, it still relates to the same transfer order as part of the inbound. So from the inbound side of things, it got receipted into the Auckland warehouse, and from an outbound, it was actually sent from the outsourced manufacturing location in Victoria. And then you can also see what sales orders went out as well, and you can look at the individual sales order and the item fulfillment number as well. And then the other transactions all pertain to any internal sort of transactions pertaining to that individual batch. So you can see there was an inventory adjustment made to basically incorporate 100 units of that of this 10 kilo carton of blueberries. So and then from there you have the ability to export as well. So you can either export every individual one of those tabs, or at the top you have the ability to export all. And if you do export, it will therefore generate a trace report and email it to you with a CSV file. And you can include other people on that as well. So you can see from that traceability, it's giving you a full view from end to end for a particular date range, for a particular set of locations, what the movement has been of that batch across the organisation. So if you need to do a recall, you can manage all those recalls, return those sales orders back if need be, and manage it accordingly. So hopefully that gives you a bit of a view on the Traceability app.
That's great. Thanks, Robert. I'm going to take a poll and share my final poll. There we go. I'm going to launch this poll of how would you like us to follow up post this webinar. I did have a question come through. The question is there any limitation on the type of barcoding readers that need to be purchased? So it's more kind of a hardware question. I suppose it would depend on the application. Stephen?
Yeah, no, I'm happy to take that one. So basically, we do have a list of approved devices, but it'll work on any modern device. So basically, it has to be running Android and be capable of running Chrome. Or if you're looking at some sort of iOS device and a sled, then that's fine as well. So basically, it has to be a modern device. So the really old school scanners running like Windows Mobile or Windows CE, those operating systems that Microsoft no longer supports, aren't allowed, but there's a wide range of devices that we do support.
One for Robert. What kind of item types can be tracked? I imagine that would be normal stock items.
Yeah, so inventory items that are lot numbered or serial numbered. So if they're not, if they're just standard inventory items that aren't lot numbered or serial, then it won't work. So they have to be lot numbered and serial numbered as an inventory item to manage it, as well as an assembly. So anything that is lot numbered and serial, whether it's assembly, whether it's an inventory item, can all be utilized in the lot trace.
And that goes throughout, from goods receipting through manufacturing, through the warehouse, raw materials, finished goods.
Yep. So whether it's an inventory adjustment that comes into the warehouse or a purchase order that's received into the warehouse, it tracks it on that at the time of when you're receiving in those batches with expiry dates, if you require those expiry dates, to any movements of that inventory within the warehouse. If they're moved in the warehouse as bin transfers, or they're moved within sub-locations in the warehouse, they will all be tracked as inventory within the solution. If you're using transfer orders or intercompany transfers, if you're a multi-company organisation that does selling between the organisations or movements of inventory between organisations, it will track all those as well as any sales orders that are sent out the warehouse through item fulfillments to the customer. All those are tracked as well. So pretty much every single transaction pertaining to a batch number or to a serial number is incorporating the lot trace.
Fabulous, thank you for that. There's no more questions on this today, so I'd like to say thank you to our presenters. Thank you to Terry Ann for organising, and thank you for the attendees for attending. This will be followed up with an email with a link to the recording later in this week. And please keep in touch, info@rfsmart.com, info@onecloudx.com.au. Thank you, Robert. Thank you, Stephen. Thank you, attendees. I hope you have a great day.
Thank you.